In today's episode, we have Marsha, a certified exercise physiologist and nutrition coach, and she speaks to us today about the struggle that she had with her PMS symptoms and how everything started changing for her when she started learning through her clients. Stay tuned for this encouraging and inspiring episode on Unapologetically Woman.
Welcome to Unapologetically Woman, the podcast where women come together to share their unfiltered experiences navigating womanhood. Join us as we dive into candid conversations about periods, perimenopause, postpartum bleeding, miscarriages, and more. This is a safe space where we embrace the raw, real, and often unspoken aspects of being a woman. Get ready to be empowered, inspired, and heard. This is Unapologetically Woman.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to Unapologetically Woman. Today, we are here with Marsha, the owner of Gemcut Fitness. Marsha has a master's in exercise and nutrition science from George Washington University, and she says her mission is very clear. She's all about crafting dynamic, personalized meal plans, offering top-notch nutritional guidance and tailoring workouts that sync seamlessly with the bustling lives of professional women. Thank you so much, Marsha, for joining me and being able to tell your story. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, I thank you for being here. Like the response of like women getting on and just telling their stories about our reproductive health, I feel is so powerful, not only for us who are speaking about it, because that's part of the healing process, but for those watching and for the girls who are growing up now, for them to have this information now before it gets to the point where it's like, oh, I wish I would have learned that sooner. Yes. And, prior, audience, I was talking a bit to Marsha, and she, I'm going over a little bit of her story, and she was like, oh, I think I should backtrack on this story a little bit. So we're going to actually start with Marsha and understand how the period, the aspect, the concept of a period was even introduced to her. So Marsha, you said that it was about 5th grade that it was introduced to you about a period. And I am just curious of how this experience was.
It was a train wreck. So what went down was it was after church. And I remember my mom was like, come into my room. So, I was thinking, what did I do? Like, she was just so serious. She didn't have no expression on her face. And I went in the room and she was like, close the door behind me. And I was like, oh my goodness, what did I do? I was really scared at that moment. And she was just like, you're at that age. You may start seeing a little blood in your underwear. And if it happens, it's only going to happen for a little bit. And then she was just like, but if it does, just come to me and we can go from there. He didn't break anything down. I was scared because I was like, blood, why am I bleeding? It is, I understand it was probably, she was kind of felt a little weird about talking about it, but still as a child, I felt like she should have went more in depth because it was so many questions, but because how she was moving, I was too scared to ask questions. So I just took the information and I left.
That is interesting, because when it came to like my period talk, now that I think about it, it really wasn't like I was actually introduced in 5th grade myself, but I was introduced via a book. One of my friends actually, her mom gave her a book about periods, and it was very children friendly. Like, I wish I remember the name of that book. And it was just like, the way that it kind of like revealed what was going to happen. But, in the book, it doesn't really talk about like the hormones and all this other stuff, but it puts it in like simple forms. Like, you as a girl are going to go through this with like pictures and things of that nature. And for you, you're like, okay, first of all, she came in there and you were already scared because you thought you were in trouble.
Yes.
You're like, I'm in trouble. I'm about to get a whooping. Something's going to go down. Like, you're probably trying to recall all the stuff you did.
Everything. Because I was like, okay, what did I do earlier? I thought I was good in church, everything.
And you know what makes me curious is, why did she do it at church?
She did it after. I don't know. I never asked her that. It was one of those things, I just took it and left. I don't know if she just felt like this is the time I should do it. Why, after praising the Lord, I don't know. I do not know. But I felt like that was not the best moment. But I have to give kudos to my sister. She did an absolutely fabulous job with my niece. She took her to get ice cream, and she broke it down to her. And then she gave her a book. But when her cycle started, she had like a self-care pamphlet and everything. And I was just like, wow, that was beautiful.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting because I sometimes feel like, our parents, being from an older generation, they kind of like, when it comes to our periods, it's kind of like hush hush.
Yes.
And so it gives, like you said, like that weird vibe, right? Like it's something like, we don't really talk about it. She did it very secretly with you, So it was like, that the way that she probably felt about periods and talking about it might have been seen as taboo. And it was kind of like it sounds like the way it was delivered, that energy was a little bit passed on to you about it. So, that's your first experience in just like finding out, hey, as a woman, as a girl, I'm gonna just start bleeding down there, not knowing what's really happening. And then when did your period actually start?
It was like a year and a half later when I was 12. And I recall I was outside because I was a tomboy hanging out. My dad was outside doing work. I was sitting on the ground, and his friend came and I saw him walk away. And I looked down and I noticed it, and I was like, oh my God. So I jumped up, ran inside to my mom, and I told her, and she just showed me how to, gave me a pad, showed me how to lay it into my underwear. And all I could remember was the recall was her talking about it. And I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to last long, because she said it just comes and that's it. So I was like, okay, this is only one time experience. Will it happen again next month? It was so many questions, but because of that last experience, I didn't ask her. I kept quiet and just, looked for the following month to see if it was going to happen, because it was just so much I didn't understand, but I just went along with the flow. Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so like you said, that same kind of energy at the beginning where you were scared to like ask about it and know more about it, it was still there, like when your period came on. So you weren't really like curious, you're like, okay, I'm not gonna ask any questions about this because it was a bit of a scary moment. Now, when that happened to you, did you have any symptoms? Like, how was your experience during the first time that it came on?
I think it wasn't that day, but later the next day I started feeling the cramps. So it wasn't too bad, but I felt it, but it was still like I was trying to put it to the back of my head. I didn't really like, okay, it's here, but don't focus in on it. So it was kind of like put it in the box and close it off, the pain at that point.
Okay, and you know what? That's always like, especially when we get older, we realize that's not the best way to handle our feelings. And when it comes to us as women, like we are basically like harnessing those feelings every month when it comes to our period. And I'm just curious because you're saying, okay, I just closed it up and I went into a box. But how did that progress for you? Did the pain start getting worse? Did you start having more symptoms through the years? And what was the activities that you were doing? Were you given medicine at all? How did you try to cope with things?
Yes. So as I got older, the pain it got stronger. I was taking ibuprofen, and I was taking 1-800. I never forget that. But then the pain was so much, I started taking 2. And then I was active in sports. This is in high school. So I will be I think this was during track season. And I recall telling my coach, I was like, hey, I'm hurting really bad. I don't think I should work out or train. And she was like, run it through. You'll be fine. And at that point, I just took it as, okay, I guess that's what we do. But thinking back to that time, I really think that kind of hurt me, because you shouldn't be running through the pain like that, because a couple of times I recall that my cycle skipped months. And I wasn't, sexually active or anything, so I wasn't scared on that forefront, but it was like, oh, okay, that's normal. But it's not normal. But as a child, you talk to your friends, oh yeah, my cycle didn't come on this month. Oh, mine didn't either. And you just go on about it, but you don't know the damage that you're doing to your body at that time. But yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, because same thing, I was very athletic. And I was actually the opposite. I didn't have those skipped months. Actually, it was constant, like every month. Like when it came on, I've never had like a skipped month. I might have had like delays, which I realized like intuitively I knew it was because of stress that it actually ended up delaying my cycle. But when it came, like I was the same way. I had severe pain to the point where I was nauseous. I would throw up. Sometimes I would even miss school, and it was considered normal. Yeah, right? Like they're telling you, oh, just push through the pain, right? Because it's like you're a woman, it's like you're expected to take in the pain, you're expected to harness that pain, and that's it. Like because you're a woman. And it's like we have to paint a different narrative around this story.
I mean, you just don't, and that's why I always look at it as you silenced her. Like, why? She's the form of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so why do we make her quiet? Why are we ashamed of her? Like, why are we willing to ignore the signs that she's given us that something's not right? And it's just sad.
It is sad. It is funny because there are so many factors when it comes to like women in our bodies. I know, it's like, you see women uprising with like Roe versus Wade, right?
Yes.
But it just goes back so far when it comes to women and the regulating of our bodies. Even like, and this is not, to say anything against people who have religious beliefs, but, when you look at even text, like biblical text, like it makes a point to say a woman is cursed, and that she's unclean on, when her period is, and it creates this belief, about women. And it's like, okay, this is like, we're not cursed, actually. Like we're actually healing, like every single, it's the exact opposite. We're detoxing, we're releasing through our poop and everything. Like this happens naturally for women. And so we know that we're actually healthy when it's happening, right? And one of the things, when you're saying, oh, like your cycle has stopped, I was like, oh, either a lot of athletes tend to lose their periods. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, I found out later.
And
especially when me and my friends were like, oh yeah, I didn't get mine this week. Okay, it wasn't,
And now, being equipped with that information, though, to know, hey, this isn't healthy when this happens, though, is also a good thing. Because even though we say, oh, it's common for athletes not to have their periods, it doesn't mean that it's good that it stops, as women. Because for me, I was grateful that it didn't stop, because I knew it was something that needed to happen. But I also realized that, I feel like a lot of time it's a part of dehydration. I'm not like a clinical doctor, you guys, but oftentimes if you are an athlete, make sure you are up to par on your water.
And as an athlete, as a female athlete during that time frame, that was the time also that the body image, and it's probably still going on now, that body image was such a big thing. You shouldn't be this much, you shouldn't weigh this much, you've gained weight, you need to cut back on certain foods. So there was a big stigma on how we ate at that time as well. Like a lot of us weren't healthy. And I remember a lot of my friends dealing with, I want to say eating disorder, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think that was an issue for them. So the whole concept with, fertility as well as, being a female, I just felt like we didn't get the proper lessons of being healthy overall.
And you're right. I do feel like you are absolutely right that education is not there for girls in schools, period. I feel like it is not there. It's 2024. That information is still not there the way that it should be. And it has, it's come to the point where women are like, screw this. We just start speaking out. We just start speaking out anyway in every way that we can, so that young girls do get educated on things like this and reproductive health, because they do need to come. And you know what? I also, I say it's a part of that switch between the matriarch and the patriarch period. And I know people think, oh, matriarch, they just think about women ruling, but I don't think, and that's also a part of the problem, because they're making it so superficial. It's like, oh, women, it's like, dude, it's deeper than that. They believed in the power within. They believed in the power within. In the matriarch, that's when they believe in the power over others. Yeah. So it's the concept in which you're believing in holistic care. They believe in all aspects of your holistic care. So they're looking at your social life, your mental, they're looking at what's going on with you internally. And so they, when you even look at the calendar, the lunar calendar, it's 28 days. Yes. It's the same cycle as a menstrual cycle. It was so much more catered, I feel, in ancient times to women in our bodies, and honoring women's bodies and respecting women's bodies, and being like, no, this is her time to rest. And, even realizing that we have superpowers. Yes. Have you discovered your superpower?
Yes. I embrace my feminine energy every single day.
Yeah. And it's when you were talking about the silence, that's kind of what hit me. It was our superpower is being silenced, because once you get in tuned with your period, that is when, I don't know, but just other aspects of your life. When I tell you, even I know you shaking your head right now because you agree, but for those of y'all that are listening, when you get in tune with your period, and I mean in tune, when you are like, okay, this is pain. I feel this pain. Okay, I'm going to incorporate blueberries. Yes. I'm going to start incorporating this type of exercise movement. Yes. And you start going with the flow, other aspects of your life change, your relationships change, not just with yourself, but with other people. Your mentality changes. So many other things are affected when you start getting in tune with that energy. And you were saying you were dealing with basically pushing through this since 12 years old. So that is very interesting, because now, we're looking at you and you're talking about, you're like, you embrace that feminine energy. And we're going to take a quick break, and we are going to come back with Marsha, who's going to talk about that moment in her life when she starts to appreciate that beautiful feminine, and I'm going to say dark energy. Yes. So we'll be back.
Welcome to Unapologetically Woman, the podcast where we dive into all things related to women's health, empowerment, and success. I'm Ms Tonya, a dedicated life coach using menstrual cycle synergy to help women executives, women entrepreneurs, and corporations, helping them establish better policies to accommodate women. If you are enjoying today's episode and want to stay updated with our latest content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Share this video with a woman who would benefit from our discussions. We're always looking to grow our community and empower more women. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below sharing the insights you gained from today's episode. And don't forget to like this video to show your support. If you are watching during the premiere, make sure you leave a comment during the premiere below in order to enter into our monthly giveaway, where you'll receive live CBD resin gummy, CBD skincare products, a period tracker planner, and a spa certificate. Winners will be tagged and announced. New episodes premiere on YouTube on Wednesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. If you're ready to take the next step towards your own empowerment, book a free 15 life coaching session with me. Visit www.mstonya.com to schedule your session today. For corporations looking to support women's health, I offer consulting services to help implement better policies. Want to be a guest on our show and share your story? Visit our website or find the link in the description to express your interests. Thank you for being part of our community. Subscribe now, click the notification bell, leave a comment, like, share, and join us on this empowering journey. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on Unapologetically Woman.
All right, we're back with Marsha with Gemcut Fitness, and she's had an amazing story, you guys, of telling us her experience of, being an athlete and being told basically, you're a girl, push through the pain, and living like that since the age of 12. And now we're going to get into the part of Marsha's story where she starts to realize, hey, I shouldn't be enduring this pain like that. I shouldn't be just pushing through. I should be honoring and respecting my body. And I would like to know, one, what age or what age range were you when you actually start to appreciate who you are unapologetically as a woman?
I think I was at that age. I was in my 30s. I would say about 32. And at this point, you've had your, experiences in your 20s, you've grown and you've matured mentally. And it was at that point where I had experienced a lot of women working with women in this field and hearing their stories about, with their health and how we just, diminish the feelings that we have when it comes to our health. And I was just like, why? Why do we look down on being a female when I feel like it's one of the greatest things on earth? And as that started playing in my head and that became my narrative, I was like, well, why do I look down on one of the most, profound things that I can have? And that's my cycle. And I was just like, girl, you better embrace it. You better enjoy who you are and just be appreciative of what you have. Because I hadn't had kids at that time. And I was like, this is the gateway for me being a mom, bringing life into the earth. And just, it's the energy that helps me nurture. And that's my whole life changed from that moment, from there.
And, I'm interested because, you had that click. Was there like any type of like experience? Was there a movie? Was there something somebody said to you to kind of like start you on this path? Or was it something that it just intuitively, it just came like, like your inner being, your true self was just like bursting out at that moment? It was like, look, I'm gonna need to talk to you right now.
No, it was my clients. All of them having all the same symptoms, going through the motions, when I've realized from my clients, whenever they're having their cycle and their period, if they never accepted it, it shows up in their life, like you stated. They're not happy with certain instances in their life. They're not reaching levels that they desire. They're not the mindset, like they don't push through the thought process of many things. It's like they've hit the ceiling and that's it. And it was at a point where I was just constantly trying to build them up. But I had to look at it as a whole. And it's because you have to, in this field world, how I work is basically I look at the entire body, your mind, your stress levels, everything, your energy. And it all stems back to you not embracing yourself as a female, not embracing that. One of the most biggest things is your cycle, hiding it, not wanting people to know about it, talking in secret when you say stuff like, I'm on my cycle, saying it low, or you're not just, being ashamed to go into the store and buying products for it. And I was just like, why? Why do we do that? So yeah, that's where it stemmed from.
Wow. And you mentioned something so beautiful, because as a coach, that is, I sometimes think people think because we're a coach, we have it all together, when it's like we are learning and growing and evolving because of you, because we realize that you are a reflection of us.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know, yeah, right. And when you said, "Oh, I learned from my clients," it's like, wow, okay, you're the real deal. Because if you're not learning from your clients, then I don't consider you to be a real coach. Because there's no way that you can be a coach and you not see yourself in who you're coaching. You know, you have, like, you know, they are a mirror of you or some aspect of you, and it could be like a part of your past, which is what enables you to help them along in their present moment. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. And the mention of the shame, the embarrassment, that's that energy that we carry with us from a young age, right? Because now you're in your 30s. This started at 12.
Yes.
We're talking about over a decade worth.
I live with the shame longer than I live without it.
Yes. But as soon as you started living without it, how was that? How did all of a sudden your experience start to change when, you know, your clients are showing you, you know, how you can be better? How did this start to change for you as you progressed?
I had more empathy because I did not accept my part. I was a little harsh myself. I took on what other people had shown me. And when I realized the pattern and how it's not moving, I was just like, what is it? You continuously do the same thing over and over with the same negative results. It's insanity. So it was at that point I had to sit back and I had to basically say, girl, forgive yourself. I'm sorry that I shut you off. I'm sorry I didn't embrace you. I'm sorry that I didn't love you the way that I should have. And because of that, moving forward, I will always acknowledge you. And with that gave me the understanding of how to be like, okay, what's going on? Okay, this is how we're going to move during this time of the month. So when I'm doing assessments, okay, when is your cycle? What are the symptoms? Okay, this is how we're going to move. Oh, yeah. No, don't push through. I need you to listen to your body. You have to become in tune with it. So it was a movement for me to, you know, appreciate everyone else, have that empathy, because I didn't like it when no one did not have it for me. So why am I doing the exact same thing?
Wow. It's interesting. There was on a previous, gosh, I forgot who I was speaking to, but we recorded it, okay, y'all. So you'll hear sometime, all right? But she was mentioning the fact that, you know, she was so masculine, you know, in the way that she worked, you know, and pushing through things. And she was a bit like, I guess, like you could say, like, she didn't have that empathy as well. You know, she basically was kind of like shut off to that. But it's interesting how you mentioned that change for you when you started getting in tune. You started to have more empathy, which allows you to be better, just not only as a person, but to others who are around you, right? Just being a human.
Yes.
You know, like that's a part of us being human, is having empathy, you know, for other people. And I think that's interesting how that it transformed your life by becoming more in tune with your body. Even it's like, okay, you know what, around this time, this is how we're going to move around this time of the month. And you just accept it.
Yes. Surrendered.
You surrendered. Yes, you surrendered. And I think sometimes we look at the word surrender as like a weakness when it's not. And unfortunately, we look at our period as a weakness because we're comparing our working schedule to a man's schedule, you know? And then it's like, hey, like, for those of you who don't know, a man's hormonal clock is 24 hours, you guys. Okay. That is like legit scientifically real. Their hormonal clock is 24 hours. So that means that it resets every 24 hours. If y'all don't know, that sounds familiar, right? 24 hours in a day. Yeah. That's a man's day. Literally.
Yes.
It's not a woman's day because our hormones are fluctuating. Like there are sometimes like before my cycle, the less sleep I have, the better. But it gets to a certain point, it's like my body's like, no, we're taking this whole day of rest here. So it's interesting, like, because our hormones shift so much, there is no dedicated, we have 24 hours to work. We actually have to work that's more productive and optimal for us.
Exactly.
And wow, I think it's beautiful that your story shares that. It shares how you went from this space of just being scared, a bit embarrassed about your period, to fully embracing it and being like, I am a woman and I believe,
Yes.
So now my other question is, you're the 800 milligram, you said you'll never forget that, the 800 milligram of ibuprofen. Do you take anything now for pain?
No, I don't take anything. I do not take no type of medication. And I actually stopped taking ibuprofen in college. And it was because when I went to the sports med, she was like, why are you taking this much? This is not good for you. And the word that scared me was, she said, you're going to bust your heart wide open. I'm like, what? Because I was just taking it. It was nothing. And so at that point, I was taking 1,600 all together at once, and it wasn't really affecting me. I wasn't sleepy. I was just moving throughout the day, still some of the pain. And I was like, I just need to stop. This isn't good. And I'm really not big on medication. Not saying that's what everyone has to do. But from that realization, I kind of backed away from a lot of medication, because all it does is mask the pain. It doesn't address the issue. It doesn't do anything to help you but numb you. And why should we be numb? Because we still aren't addressing what's important. We still aren't looking at the big issue. So yeah.
And it's interesting because that's like one of the big reasons people do take some type of pain medication is actually to mask, because you don't want to be feeling pain. You don't want to be, even if it's like anxiety medicine, you don't want to feel sorrow. You don't want to feel depression. So you mask it. And reality is we're only repressing it and basically making things worse. It's like, I don't want to say a pressure cooker, but it's like a carbonated drink that you keep shaking. You've never actually opened it. You just keep shaking it. And there's just all this pressure that's just building up. And then you decide one day, you know what? I'm going to open this up. And then all this stuff comes out.
Yes. Yes.
And it's like, oh, okay. Like, now let me deal with this mess that was already here, that's now all over my floor. So it's interesting that, like, to see that transformation. And, I really want women to understand this was a transformation that took years. Okay. It took years to come into this realization. And it is, unfortunately, like, women our age, is very common that it takes over a decade to actually realize it's because we were on this journey alone. We're learning this all on our own. And, we're at the point where it's like, young women, I'm going to call you young women. You're no longer girls to me when you have your period. When you get to that point, you now have more resources now more than ever. Make sure you educate yourself about your period and don't just take what anybody says to you about your period. Like, know for yourself, know your body yourself. Start tracking your period now. Know your symptoms now. Know your energies level now. Know your cravings and know, like, hey, it's okay for me to have this craving, and be unapologetic about it, because also, when we talk about stigmas, right? Oftentimes, if, you mentioned earlier about women, being kind of quiet and not wanting to speak about it, it's because you get like this retort from other people that, like, oh, like, you're in a bad mood because you're on your period. And it's like, I'm in a bad mood because you were just being an asshole.
Yes, exactly.
It has nothing to do with my period. Whether I'm on my period or not, you're still being a dick. And it's like, that's people's way to kind of justify like their behavior is like, oh, you're overreacting because you're on your period. It's like, no, everything that I feel on my period is valid.
Yes.
Okay. Not only are my feelings heightened, my sense of smell is heightened. Okay. Like these are all part of my superpowers. And one of my superpowers is detecting your bullshit quicker. You know? And you're just noticing it now more. That's all. That's it. But like, no, and it's just interesting, right? Because of those, we don't want to see that we're on our period because we get shamed about how we're feeling. And it's actually pretty sad.
Yeah, and it's I think back as women, if we just work in our energy, we create to be nurturers. Sometimes we try and take on other, roles. And I understand that at one point. And some women now have to take on the role sometimes as mother and father, or, if you feel like you have to climb the ladder, you have to hush off, quiet certain areas in your life. But you can't let that define you. You can't allow that. If you work in a nurturing, energy style, I truly believe you still can reach certain levels. You don't have to be harsh. You can still be understanding, but stern, knowing exactly what's best. But you just have to know how to move. And people see you being nurturing as a bad thing. One word, and I may get some, people talking about me about this, but one word that I do not like to use for women is strong. We can be nurturing. When you're nurturing, you're making sure that everyone's taken care of. That's not being strong. You're nurturing. You're doing what you have been created to do, to be a nurturer. You have to, if you're juggling jobs, if you're taking care of other people, you're giving that energy. But when you change the energy as a female that you're supposed to do, you work it out of alignment of who you are. And because you're working out of alignment, that leads you to take on more stress. It leads you to take on, feeling overwhelmed, anxiety, and it makes you feel less than. But if you understand your role as a female and you're a nurturer, you're more willing to accept the roles and move easier through. But that's just my thought, No,
I agree. It's funny you say, because I feel like every woman has a certain power within them that they get in tuned with. And it starts with going within, nurturing within, and I think that's the first thing is for women to come to understand how to learn to nurture from within. Because if you don't really learn how to nurture yourself, you really can't nurture anyone else. And we end up playing this role where you, like you said, basically we're taking on other people's perspective of who you are as a woman, and as a result, you're silenced. Not just your period, your feelings are silenced. How you are thinking is silenced because you're a woman. And so women will take that on, and because their feelings are pushed to the side. They go to a doctor to complain about pain. Oh, just take this because you're a woman. So it's silence. And so that constant silent treatment, we feel less than. We feel less than worthy. And so we don't nurture ourselves the way that we properly should because we're so busy giving so much to everybody else. It's like, oh, our feelings don't matter. This is what I'm supposed to do as a woman. And even moms, they think, oh, they like all they are as a mom. It's like, nah, you ain't just a mom. Like you have feelings too. Like you have no, he shouldn't be trying to jump in the shower with you. No, this is mommy time. Back up. Okay. Where's your dad? Okay.
Then you can get your son.
No, this is mommy time. You don't disturb mommy time right now. And you create those boundaries. And I feel like women feel like they can't do that sometimes. So I totally agree. And I think that is a great way to actually conclude today's show actually is to go within to nurture yourself, and everything in your life will show and flow and nurture itself.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Marsha, for joining me. It was truly a pleasure. I look forward to having you on the show to do some behind the scenes.
Yes, definitely.
Cool. I would love to talk about, more of your experience as a woman athlete, to do some behind the scenes. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So we'll definitely do like a behind the scenes where we can talk about your experience as a woman athlete. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. Learn more about our guests in the description below. Download your free period tracker to stay in tune with your energy levels, mood, cravings, and your flow. Interested in being a guest on our show? Complete the form in the description. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts on today's episode and be entered into our surprise monthly giveaway. For women looking for a natural way to relieve menstrual cramps, try live resin gummies to ease menstrual cramps. The link is available in the description. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more empowering content. This is Unapologetically Woman.